Hello and welcome back to the MHR podcast. I'm Alice.
And I'm Andy.
And for this week, I thought that we'd have a little discussion about the best place for your workspace.
Oh, I like that as a little rhyme. What do we mean by that exactly then?
So I was thinking, we speak a lot about HR process, digitalisation, but we really haven't spoke about the environment that we work in.
Okay.
We mentioned culture, we mentioned our teams, we mentioned collaboration a lot. We spoke about communication last week.
Okay.
But what I thought would be good to talk about is actually what's in our environment that makes us do our jobs better, makes us more
Nice.
productive.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, and there was an article I picked up on and I thought it was interesting, but there is a lot more that goes into creating a healthy environment, a healthy
Yeah.
workplace that really does let your employees thrive in.
I like that because I suppose we obviously talk in a digital space quite a lot about our technology, but I suppose it's how that complements the world we work in. Because me and you, we work in office, right?
We do,
work,
yes.
Yeah, we don't work from home very often, very rarely. I know you travel around a lot in your place.
Yes.
I'm always in the office, and I actually like being in the office. And I do have a lot of interesting conversations with different colleagues about like what their preference is. If some people, want to take that break and work from a different space, be it in their office or in a communal space, or some people work from home. I really like working in the office because it suits my personality. And so I like working with people. I like collaborating with people. I feel like I get stuff done, and it brings out a better side of me. So I suppose it's important that businesses know how different people work, so they can make an environment that makes them better, I guess.
100%. Yeah, and I think that's the thought process behind it. It's almost providing multiple layers to an environment so that people can choose and pick what suits them and where they are going to grow the most. So like you say, you enjoy being in the office and I do too. I live locally to the office, so even though the commute's nice for me.
Yeah.
But we're quite lucky. We've actually had 2 new buildings, haven't we, built? So we're both based in a new one.
Including the studio we're recording in
exactly.
right now. We get
it's
quite
wonderful.
We're quite lucky, right? I think when a business invests in the infrastructure around you, to make you work better. It also makes you feel better, right? Because you want to feel good at work. You want to feel like you're doing a good job.
Yes, and I think that's a key point, isn't it? It's how do you do your job at the kind of the ultimum, isn't it? Ultimum? Is that right
The
word?
ultimate version of your job.
There we go.
Yeah. The work ultimum. That's
work
what we'll call this
ultimum.
episode.
Cool. We'll get a few power words in there as well. But it is working at your best, isn't it? And at the end of the day, like I say, it's whether you are in the office or you can be at home. We know that there's a lot of you out there that are home working now, and that's been a change in your career, in your job.
Yeah.
But maybe reflect upon what is it that you've put in your home office that helps you work better, that makes you feel more productive.
It's it was a big topic during lockdown, wasn't it? And just after, because everyone went from being like, oh, I've had to, that day in April or March, wherever it was, we were like, oh, suddenly I had just to pack up my keyboard in a box and I start working from home. And I went and bought a desk from IKEA, and then now it's in the bedroom. And now I get up in the morning and I get dressed-ish maybe, and then I go and sit at my desk in my bedroom and I work from there for 8 hours. And then it's just, there's no work-life balance. Yeah. I really value coming into an office environment where I'm collaborating with people, because I don't think I work as very well on my own.
I'm the same, actually.
I procrastinate, I get distracted. I also get stuck inside my head, and I could make a bigger problem about something when actually I could just go and talk to someone and solve it. Like, I like that level of in-person communication.
Yeah.
I also don't like feeling like the world that I live in, my private space at home, has the stuff of work coming into it. Because yes, I might enjoy my job and I like the people I work with, I don't want them at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like the separation. That's really important to me. I struggle working remotely from home when I had done it. So yeah, and I think that can be reflected in what businesses can do to support employees in a workspace. If they want to encourage people into an office, because we recognise we can be maybe more collaborative in person.
Yes.
Or we can get things solved quicker in person.
Yeah.
We can still use digital technologies to enable that, but it's about going, okay, well, maybe we are in a big communal office and there's 100 of us. Is that distracting? Do we need to invest in breakout spaces? Because that's where we can ideate and go into a... Like, I love doing that. Our studio's next door to a big breakout area, right?
Yeah.
And my office is the other side of that. Sometimes I sat at my desk and it's like, it's great that we're collaborating, but there's also too much of a good thing, and I can't think. I need to go into a quiet corner and then do... So I like doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a lot businesses can do to create different types of spaces for different types of working.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, when you look at the different types of companies that exist and as they're growing as well, how can they be adapting their workspace to support the growth of that business? Because I think, if we went back 20, 30 years ago, office space was very kind of, I want to say black and white, but you had your desk.
Yeah.
It was your desk.
Yeah.
You made it your home basically.
A cubicle.
A cubicle, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you were encouraged to do was to make it your second home. Whereas I
Yeah.
think it's flipped on the other side now, and it's a shared space. It's a collaboration space. It's there for team working, and I think that's been quite a shift, hasn't it, over the past few decades?
Well, I'm older than you and old enough to remember a time
only
in work.
slightly.
About 10 years. Where actually the aspiration in work was actually, if I get a bit more senior, I have my own office. Like that, my
That's
own
true,
desk
yes,
or
yeah.
a room where I can work in. It's like, oh, great, look how cool it is. And that's not a thing now.
No.
And I think actually it's quite the opposite. Like you get very senior people who are like, no, I don't want to be seen as the person in my office because I'm locked away behind a door and I don't feel like I'm collaborating with the team. Or maybe that office turns into a negative space where you have to come through the door and you feel like you're being told off, or you feel like
You have to ask
just
permission to come in, sort of thing.
So I actually think you're getting a shift where people at a C-suite level are leaning towards going, no, I want to be part of the team.
Yeah.
I'm not more important than you. I'm not more, we're all equals. It's just I have this role and that's what I'm doing. So, but I still want to be part of the action, right?
Yeah.
Because again, if we're recognizing that being in office, that one of the benefits of communication,
Yes.
and that in-person interaction and collaboration, why would you then come into the office and then put yourself in a different room?
Yes, that's true.
All right.
Very much.
So I think that's changed now because where we work, like everyone works in the same room. That's
Yeah.
really cool. It doesn't matter who you are, you're part of the action. I do think that's a strength.
Yeah, and I think a strength as well is you can probably learn from a lot of others
Yeah.
at different levels, in different roles.
Yeah.
I know for me in my office, we don't have a seating plan in any sorts. Our teams completely merged, so I'm in customer success, but I sit amongst account managers.
Okay.
And the amount of little things that I'll just pick up from their conversations,
Good
or
though, isn't it?
I'm not saying I eavesdrop, maybe I do.
Oh, I
But
absolutely do. I go out my way. I get out my desk and go over to the other side and go, what are you talking
do you
about?
do the
Can I-"
sneaky, I'm just going to pop that in the bin? Oh,
No,
I've got another bit of rubbish on my desk, I'll pop that in the bin.
No, I'm bold as anything. I'm like, look, listen, Tom, assistant producer, what are you talking about? Because I want to know more about it. Give me that dirt on that person.
Do you roll up a seat as well? Just sit there?
No, I'll just synergise with you over here. Let me just roll this chair and I'll just lose half an hour. No, like
It is easy to do.
I like the idea of like a no seating plan. A lot of businesses do that, don't they? Where they just purely hot desk.
Yeah, and I think as well, because people tend to have maybe 3 days at home, 2 in the office.
Yeah.
So I think that works quite well because it can change up as well who's in the office during
Yeah.
the week on different days. And at that point, you're probably collaborating with multiple people that maybe you wouldn't necessarily come across
Yeah.
if everyone was in the office 5 days a week.
And I suppose if you have like a really varied workforce, so for example, okay, in the teams that we work in, we're always in office anyway.
We
right?
are,
And
yes.
we collaborate and we do all that. So that's great. But half of the business maybe that work remotely and they only come into the office 2 days a week. So actually, if you have a flexible seating system, it's not like these people feel excluded. It's like they can come in anywhere and sit down and work.
Yes.
Which really helps them trying to integrate if you don't see them face to face very often. The days
Definitely.
they are in, they can just come in and set a laptop wherever they like.
Yeah.
We all have equal rights and access to any equipment.
Yeah, and I think that's probably maybe a challenge for the HR department is how do you manage and communicate with people when they are in different workspaces? They could be at home and work, they could be in different countries.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look at digitalisation and how can technology support them with that, we have our own People First platform,
Yeah.
and that is the ultimate kind of way that we do communicate and share comms. So, for
Yeah.
example, lunch menus. You can plan ahead. You could be like, I'm coming in the office Wednesday. What's going on? Or if
Yeah.
the car park closes, it's simple things like that that having a HR platform
Yeah.
can share really key information, and people
Yeah.
don't feel like they're excluded or left out or have been missed.
Or some simple things like, okay, I'm gonna work in the office that day, or 2 days this week. I'm going to pick the day. Well, actually, I'm not going to pick the days that People First is telling me that half the team are on annual leave. Well,
Yes,
I'm going to pick the days I know they're in.
It's very helpful.
So
It is.
I can get the most out of that interaction, right? I suppose lockdown as well, because there was a huge shift of people having to work from home, highlighted a lot of problems in terms of what HR had to deal with, maybe kind of like work based health and safety and regulations in terms of making sure that people are looking after themselves. Because like when you start a new
True.
job in a new office, there's all these mandatory like sit up at your desk right, have your monitor at the right
It's
level,
true.
put
You
it
do.
on a box, use an ergonomic keyboard, do all these things, and which you kind of take for granted. You're like, oh, this is boring, but it's also like, but actually, I'm doing this 8 hours. I probably need to bear this in mind. You
Yeah.
don't really have that control or that ability to support when someone's working remotely from home because they're taking their own physical welfare onto themselves, whereas they're
Yeah.
not being put into an environment where we can make sure they've got it set up right. So that can lead to more HR issues.
It can do it, and I guess in some ways it builds a bit more pressure on HR as well to be monitoring.
Yeah.
Because they're not just monitoring what they can physically see in the office, it's having to rely on employees to share that information
Well,
with
yeah, how do
them.
you police that? You can't be like, oh, so sorry, I'm in the middle of a Teams call and someone knocks on my front door. It's like, it's Greg from HR. It's like, I just want to check that your monitor's set up at 1.5 meters away from your face. Thanks. Yeah, coming into my bedroom, Greg. That's not weird. You know what I mean? Like, how do you can't do that, can you?
No, you can't. But again, it really goes to show how diverse the HR departments now had to become,
Yeah.
and the different responsibilities they have. But I think ultimately what it really spins back to is how much you can offer as a business to your employees, and managers as well, I guess. You know, how much can they be aware of how their team's working and what works best for you as a team? Is it having set days in the office? Is it, working from home, but just making sure that they have the resources, especially maybe for your more creative team as well. I can imagine it might be harder to get resources to you when you need to do your job. So there's a lot of things I think that come into when you reflect upon your workspace and what it can offer you. But ultimately, we mentioned it at the start, and that's what works best for you.
I think so. And also, but there's other things to consider as well. Like, look, coming at this from a marketing angle, your work environment has an impact on your company brand as well, right? So
Interesting.
The reason why I say this is because there was so many jokes like going viral again from lockdown where people were then forced onto Zoom or Team calls or whatever, Google Meets, whatever you wanted it to be, right? Where something would happen in the background of a call. Or you realise that people are just like, can you turn your camera on, Greg? And Greg's there and he's in bed. Like, so what you do have when you're in, so example, we're quite lucky because they built brand new facilities here and we've got a really nice environment to work in. What that is a controlled look and feel of how we come across when we do stakeholder meetings, we meet people externally, we meet customers. We can make sure that what our backgrounds are, what we look and feel, the environment that we work in, the world that we're inviting into their life for a call, looks and feels the MHR brand, right?
Yes.
I can't do that as much from home unless, for some reason, my decorating style is in line with the brand guidelines. See what I mean? And there must have been times where, taking a far extreme from it, where someone's had to address someone and go, I know you're working from home, but the posters on the wall there, not that appropriate. You probably can't go and meet the customer while you've got that as a background. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
I think, and there's an element to going, even if we do work digitally, there's an environment around us gives an impression of who we are as a company.
And I think that's a really key thing for companies to kind of take away and reflect upon, because ultimately you can build a culture very easily in your own workplace. But if you've got a shared community space or like you say, you have employees at home, how can you be transferring your values, your strategy through to the employees where they, it is their home space at the end of the day. And like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people I can imagine do want to separate work and home.
Yeah.
But it's hard
why
to
would
do.
you want to actually bring the company culture into your own home? That's not how you live. It's not that it's not bad. I mean, like, it's great. I'm here, I'm there, but I'm not that employee at home. I'm an employee at work. So why don't I embrace that while I'm at work and keep those lives separate?
Exactly, definitely. But there are multiple kind of not checklists. There are multiple ways that an environment can help your employees thrive in.
Yeah.
But I think it is making sure that it fits to the way that you want your business to come across, how you want it to look and feel, and ultimately how you want your employees to feel at the end of the day. Because they are working day in, day out in this workspace. So it's got to be healthy. It's got to be motivating.
Yeah. I think we discussed this quite a bit last year as well, and they're still available for you to look at, but we had a load of well-being checklists that we released. You can find them on the MHR Global website under our resource hub, right? But a lot of them talked about your physical well-being. So that's about what you can put in place in a workspace to make sure people are looked after physically. Your mental well-being in terms of how you can use technology or the resources around you in a workspace. So, for example, if you have a mental aid first aider, for example, or you have resources in the company that you can go and see while you're in at work,
Yes.
that's great. Harder to do at home.
Yes, it
Unless
is
you've got
definitely,
those digital routes played in, which is where you need things like people first or whatever, where you can connect people. Doesn't matter where you are, right?
Yeah.
But there's loads of them. So financial well-being, technical well-being, environmental well-being, physical well-being. Those guys are still available, but they do also give people an active list of going, in my workspace, have I considered the needs of my employees in this way? So it is worth checking them out.
Definitely, definitely. And I think you kind of touched on the fact that by having that mobile connected platform, that is the most supportive you can offer to employees that work in their different spaces. And it's really important that we're not missing the key things like financial well-being or mental health well-being as well, because a lot of the time you can physically see the tangible. They're there, you can assess them, but actually what's going on underneath everything, what is it that could be a bit of a blocker, what could be a bit of a challenge, and you just it's uprooting it, isn't it? Just bring it into that awareness. And things like checklists on a HR platform can be great for that. Especially for, I think, managers where they might be managing multiple teams or maybe numerous different individuals at different levels, and it's not easy to remember to cover everything. So things like checklists or check-ins and having regular meetings can really make sure that we are assessing the important things. So I think we've had a good chat really about best place for your workspace.
I think the main thing I've taken away from it is like, at the end of the day, they're like, everyone has their own different line of work superpowers, don't they? Like, what are they really good at work? And you've got to look at that's the reason why you employed them, right? You hired them because, you're brilliant at this. You're going to bring so much to the company. We need to look at how the workplace environment enables that superpower.
Definitely.
So for me, it's about communication, it's about collaboration, it's about being in the space and working with people. So I want a workspace that enables that. So that's why I come in. So what is it about your employees that makes them brilliant, and how does the space support them?
Definitely. But no, you really couldn't have summed it up better. That is exactly what it is about. It is reflecting on what's out there, what can you be doing to reviewing what's around you, and how can you be
getting the most out of your people from the space that we have.
Yeah. The superpower.
It's the superpowers.
It is. We hope that you've enjoyed this week's episode. If you'd like to check out any of the previous ones, they're available on mhrglobal.com, or you can have a look at Spotify, YouTube, have a scroll around. We're on all of the platforms. And we hope to see you next week.
See you then.
Bye-bye.